bizarre feeling to be sitting here with you at our campground while we're going around Australia. Like for me, you're quintessential Australian, like you're...
Oh, thank you.
You're the storyteller.
I love telling stories, and I think that growing up on the North Coast really was an important part of what I ended up doing, because my grandparents and a lot of my uncles and aunties were always telling stories, whether you're fishing or... Because we grew up in the Clarence River, so we spent a lot of time fishing and hanging out there and camping a lot at the beach. And they'd always tell these stories, and I thought, well, if you can't translate that into music, there'd be something wrong. And I think that's what I've really tried to aim at, is looking back at the times where I've been sitting there and completely enthralled with what these stories were about. And our country's got some incredible stories, and there's still stacks of them that haven't been told. So it's up to a lot of us. I mean, whether you're travelling around like this and doing a show, or whether you're writing songs, you've got to tell the story of the land, you know. There's plenty of interesting things to talk about.
It's funny, when we were walking before just over here, and you were saying about how you've always got notepads on the run and you're writing stories, and I feel the same way with what we're doing. It's always meeting fascinating people.
Well, I said as well, once you're a songwriter or a writer, you're always going to write, even if you don't have to write.
Yeah.
I'm not even at the moment sort of planning straight up to go and write a record, but I know that I'm going to need stuff when the crunch time comes. So, you know, the other day I went out to Mount Isa and we're doing a publicity day, and got to meet some incredible people, from the cab driver through to the organisers who are doing the Julia Creek Festival. They all had something to say, they all had a story. And I reckon that's the biggest thrill when you're a writer, is to be able to go back to the plane, pull out the little scungy pad that you've had working on for the last 6 months and start writing down the things you've heard, because they tell you some incredible stuff. They don't even know they're saying it half the time. So you've got to have your ears ready. It's great.
Listening to your music, you're the ultimate storyteller. What's your story?
Well, my story, I suppose, comes from a kid that had a really diverse background. Like my dad arrived out here from Malta when he was 8, off a boat in Sydney. My mum's an indigenous woman from Bundjalung, all this area here, from Grafton. They met working at this little lolly factory in Sydney, and it was this really weird pairing because they came from such diverse backgrounds as well. And they broke up. I was living between two cultures for quite a while. I'd come back up to the North Coast, and I lived most of my life on the North Coast. But I'd go down to my dad's, and there's this huge extended Maltese family that I got involved with as well. And I think my story started there, because I had my dad that sang to me. I'd cry my eyes out all the way from Grafton to Sydney on the plane because I missed my mother. And I'd get down to Sydney, and my dad would see how upset I was, but the guitar would come out, and he'd start playing out a harmonica, and he'd just strum away on some chords and just put my mind at ease about where I was, and as you would with a kid. And I was probably only about 7 or 8 then. And I think that's where the whole story starts. The whole thing turned into me learning guitar, growing up in a town that was really tolerant, and growing up in a family that was loving on both sides. And then now I'm a dad myself. When I walk in and play some silly song to them, or play some little ballad that I've written for Clay as a kid, it connects in a whole other way. Not because I do it for a job. My dad didn't make a living out of music, but he still found music that connected between me and him. And I just stopped bawling when I heard it. I just went, wow, it's very comforting. And my kids get the same thing out of it now, so I'm really, really thrilled that they get to see that too.
And you first performed at 11?
Yeah, probably even earlier. I never performed solo until I was about 11, but I used to get back in the background in the group with the guitar teacher and the other girls and boys in my class. But I was always one to just want to sit back in the background and have a bit of a play. I never really had much confidence as well, so it took a while to get out in front of people. But I didn't really think I had much to say, to tell you the truth. As a kid, I just wanted to sit back and learn to play guitar. But my teacher was really inspiring to me to be a singer. She said, look, I can hear you've got a little bit of a voice. Would you mind, getting to the front of the row of kids and having a sing, and sing as loud as you can? So it was great to have those people around in my life, because without them, I wouldn't even be sitting here having a yarn to you, probably.
Yeah. And what's your key driver? Like, what's the story that you're telling? What's your messages?
Well, it started out a love of stories. My stories that I got told by my family were really important to me. Being able to convey your own story is a little bit harder, because you've basically got to put yourself in the shoes of other people that you've met. You drag up a lot of your family stories and talk about the things that happened in your own family, which sometimes the truth can be really hurtful too, and it's a sad truth, but it's worth telling. If it's real and it's got some heart, I definitely think it's worth telling. So I've been telling stories of reconciliation between black and white and things like that for many, many years, and it's still very important to me. We still have a ways to go, but it's going to happen.
Do you think it hasn't already happened?
No, it's on its way. There's still some corners that need to be turned and some crossroads that we're going to come to, but I think we're a long way down the track compared to what we were, say, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm just really glad that, you know, music can contribute to parts of that as well. You hear people like Paul Kelly singing from Little Things, Big Things Grow and stuff like that, and that to me is the leveller that music is. It just really brings people together. They understand that other people go through adversity. You mightn't necessarily face it yourself, but look at their lives and learn from it and move forward together, you know, instead of being ignorant to people's lives and cultures.
And on that story of reconciliation, what does it mean to you to be an Australian?
To me, I think this is the most amazing country in the world, and I've travelled a little bit overseas, and every time I come back I realise how important this place is. You know, we've got food in our bellies, we're not running from bombs. We have to look at our place where we live and celebrate it a lot more than we do sometimes. It's easy to take for granted when you're here. Look at us, sitting in a paddock here in Byron Bay. Like, you know, it's just brilliant here. But this is our country, and it makes you really feel very, very honoured to live in this place, I reckon.
What do you miss about the place when you're away? Is it the smell of the gum trees? Is it the desert? Is it the ocean? What do you...
I think it's the people. The land is a big part of it, of course, but the people themselves, Australians don't realise how unique they are. I mean, if I can hear them across a room, a crowded room, and I can hear that accent, and I get drawn to them straight away because they're us. They're a part of our one big family we've got here. And I miss the people. I miss people saying g'day. I miss all that. I miss the food and stuff, and that's all that little minor stuff that we miss about where we're from. But I really do think it's the people, and it's their laughter and their attitude that I think makes us very, very unique. You can go to Nashville for a meeting with some people, and then you're in this cocktail dinner or a cocktail party, and you can hear an Australian across the room laughing, and you know it's an Aussie, because we're normally the people that don't mind having a laugh and celebrate life in a different way.
Love a beer
and a joke.
and a joke.
Well, you've got to know how to take the piss out of yourself.
Yeah, you
Aussies
do.
can do that.
Yeah. What would you like to be your legacy?
You know, I'd like to think that music could be the glue between race or colour or creed or religion or anyone, you know. It shouldn't be something that's just used for this fame or whatever. I think music to me has always been a leveller. It's been something that brings people together. If you could be remembered as someone that wanted to write songs that got you in about real people, about real issues, that would be a great legacy to leave. Other than the fact that it'd be good to be remembered as someone who didn't have to tread on anyone to get to where they were going. That's the main one. Everything else, the music is a big part of it, but I just think being a good person on the way through does not hurt your cause. You know, you don't have to be nasty to people to get ahead.
No.
If you can be remembered for that, I reckon I'll be very happy.
My girlfriend always says there's enough good things in life for good people.
Oh, absolutely. And I just can't stand losing good people. So many of them we lose too early. But I just think that if you can be remembered as someone that got through life without being terrible to anyone, then your race is run properly, I reckon.
I can't resist any longer. Can you play us, like, your favourite? One of your favourites?
All right.
What's your favourite?
Well, I go through phases of favourites on albums, but sitting in Adelaide, we don't get a chance to sort of do much radio until we get to the town face to face. I'd rather do it face to face. And I was doing this ABC radio interview in Adelaide, and she was asking about what song I'm going to play for her, and I said, well, it's actually my favourite because it's the title track of a record, but it's also my favourite because I think it gives something for the listener as well. And so. I fish and I drink, I'm a good man, I think. I take a lot of pride in this place that I reside. We should not look back on the things that make us sorry. 'Cause on the road ahead, I can see the sun is shining on your face. I love this place. My kids are running around. They love this town. My wife is my life, best thing I've found. But we don't look back on the things that make us sorry. 'Cause on the road ahead, I can see the sun is shining on your face. I love this place. The world outside is a changing thing. One moment you're out, the next you're in. And I've got a good feeling that we're gonna win. If we don't look back on the things that make us sorry. 'Cause on the road ahead, I can see the sun is shining on your face. I love this place. We should not look back on the things that make us sorry. 'Cause on the road ahead, I can see the sun is shining with God's grace. I love this place. Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, you got tears.
I don't look at people when they're crying, Jen. It's too much for me.
I'm just like, don't cry, don't cry. You're amazing. You are so gorgeous.
No, thank you very much. And thanks for the invitation to come on. I reckon, long as you guys drive safe and just take your time, don't rush. Like if you haven't got an itinerary,
I think we're all crying.
I think it makes a huge
I think
difference.
there's a few tears around here.